Hignet's corner, beyond Bent. Janssen! And Blackburn Rovers are 18 minutes away from a Premiership return.
As far as Stewart, just outside the penalty area, clips it central for David Dunn. David Dunn equalises! It just had to be. Dax corner and it goes. Glance towards goal! And Rovers have taken the lead! And Charlie Mulgrew has scored his 14th of the season. It may well be the goal that sends Rovers back into the championship.
Hello Rovers fans and welcome to another edition of On the Other Side Live with me, Ryan Hildred from Rovers Chat. We've got two unbeaten sides coming up against each other at Ewood Park tomorrow, and the games keep rolling as it's arguably Rovers' toughest test of the season as we come up against table-topping West Bromwich Albion at Ewood Park tomorrow. And I'm delighted to be joined by Louis from the Baggies podcast. How are you today, Louis?
I'm very well, thank you, Ryan. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you, mate. And this is your debut on the show because you were living it up in the Premier League last season, of course. So how does it feel to be in and amongst these championship clubs?
Well, I'll let you into a little secret. I do prefer the Championship to the Premier League, especially with our record in each division. But it's very good to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me onto the show tonight.
Thanks, Louis. Appreciate that. And I think we all do secretly enjoy the Championship as well, as much as we're all chasing the gold mine of the Premier League, of course. But yeah, as usual, Rovers fans, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please, of course, subscribe to that. Please hit that bell symbol to turn on all notifications. And please give this video a big like for us. We've got Super Chat available, as we always do. And a big shout out to our sponsors as well, Blue Rose Capital and 6yardsout.com. And before we make a start, we'll just show you another new little clip that we've got, courtesy of Joe Harvey. There we go. We love showing off the little graphics that Joe does. He's absolutely good at them. So there we go. Any reason to do that. And yeah, thank you to all of you in the comments. Dizzy, I've been drawn to this one. Go Rovers. 5:18 a.m. Dizzy, really appreciate you getting up and supporting us on the show tonight. So there we go. So Louis, let's make a start. One thing that West Brom are really used to doing is promotion out of the Championship, and especially after recent relegation from the Premier League as well. It's obviously 5 promotions that you've had over the last 20 seasons, and you had a fairly stable 7 years in that, sandwiched in the middle of some promotion campaigns. But I think a recent reality that we've got is that the teams coming into the Championship, you know, they're strong, both in terms of their spending and their playing squads. So with that in mind, is the expectation amongst Baggies fans this season that you just get instant promotion back to the Premier League this term?
Yeah, I think that's probably a bit of a reality among Albion fans to want to go up this season. I think, obviously, we saw what happened with Bilic. It was essentially meant to be a 2-year project to get us back into the Premier League last time out, but we did it in 1. So I think in terms of promotion, I think it's expected among most Albion fans. I personally would rather take that extra year if it needs it, rather than, I say last time that we kind of stumbled over the line for promotion after the COVID restart. I think we really stumbled over the line. I think that really didn't help us going into the next season. I don't think we're quite ready. If we're ready, and what I've seen so far, I think that we look a very good Championship side. If we are ready from what I've seen over the course of the season, I'm happy for us to go. But I think maybe the best thing would be not to try and rush it, not to try and throw everything at this year, because Ismail's on a 4-year contract. It wouldn't be the end of the world if we didn't get promoted this season. It might just be a better thing for us to keep building in the Championship and then go up when our time is right.
Yeah, definitely. And I've just got a graphic here just to show, if I just remove this banner at the bottom, then everyone can see what we're talking about. So we've taken this right back to the 2001-2 season. So, you know, this is a 20-year graph, and the black line shows the difference between Premier League and Championship. So we can see there that obviously in the early noughties, West Brom were up and down a little bit. Then, as I mentioned, you had that stable 7-year period in the Premier League with some good finishes, actually, in the Premier League as well. Then obviously dip back down into the Championship. And as you mentioned, you had the couple of seasons in there, and then obviously got promoted in that pandemic season. So that's just a graph to illustrate that. last time you were at this level, as you said, you came second, you secured automatic promotion, and I've actually got you as my prediction to win the league this season, actually, Louis. Does it feel like you are better equipped this time round to win the league? You know, what does it feel like in the Baggies fan base?
I think that I think in terms of our squad and on paper, we are maybe the starting 11, maybe not the whole squad, because I do think there are additions needed in terms of depth for our squad. But I think in terms of starting 11, I think we are on paper as good as most other teams in the league. Therefore, I think we are better equipped. I always said that last time out, Leeds were miles better than us, and they showed that. I think we got beaten like 4-1 by them at one point in the season, so it did show that Leeds were a better quality side. I do think we're better equipped to go one better this year, but obviously it's early days. I think Fulham look a very strong side. I did have my a bit of a punt on Sheffield to go up as well, but obviously they haven't started the best, as we saw in our game the other day. I think Fulham are probably the stronger side out of the two of us. However, not as big as the margin as I think it was between us and Leeds last time out.
Yeah, and Leeds obviously, you know, had the brilliant Marcelo Bielsa, obviously pulling the strings for them. But one thing that's different for you guys this season is the manager, Valérien Ismaël. Now, he had an exceptional season with Barnsley last season, and he nearly pulled off that fairy tale promotion through the playoffs. What's the early impressions of Valérien Ismaël, and what style of players he brought to the Baggies this season?
I think I'm impressed from what I've seen so far. I think obviously the high press is something that's been touted among lots of Barnsley fans, saying it's going to be very high intensity. You're going to be winning the ball high up the pitch, playing a very high line in the defence as well. I think in terms of early impressions, I've been very impressed with what we've been doing. We looked exactly like that Barnsley team, perhaps with a bit more intricate play in the midfield and up front. Less, I suppose, last season with Barnsley, it was a bit more direct. I think we're playing it slightly less direct this season than Barnsley last year. But I think we look really competitive, and I think that's something that perhaps we've lacked perhaps last season and the season before. I think we weren't quite as first to the ball. I think a lot of teams, like the team that we are now, would have absolutely battered the team that we were a couple of years ago. Like that team we had under Bilic would have been battered by a physical Barnsley side or a physical, say, for example, Millwall side. We would have been, we'd have been beaten quite easily, and we were in the latter stages of that season. So I think Valérien Ismaël's got us playing a very high press football, and we're very fit and very athletic, and I'm really pleased to see that sort of stuff happening, because I think in the Premier League, before Big Sam came in, we were a little unfit, and I think that's worrying to say as a professional football side, but we were quite unfit. But now we look very fit, very physical, and it's really good to see us trying to at least be first to every ball, which I think was something that lacked in the Premier League last season.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the style of play, actually, Louis, because, at Barnsley last season, he was really renowned for getting the ball up quickly to the front three that he would play up there with that press that you've mentioned. And then what he would do in games at Barnsley as well is change the whole front three, given the work rate that they were putting in, and with the press that they were doing. Now, one thing that I've always associated with West Brom, I don't know why, is the fact that you are a footballing side. So, two questions really, I guess. Have you seen, that style that he had at Barnsley last season? Have you seen that happening? And how's that going down with the Baggies fans, just that actually this might be a bit different to what we've seen over the last 20 years?
I can definitely see it translating to us. Obviously, we try as Albion fans, and like as a lot of content creators in the Albion community, we tried to do our research on the Barnsley side and Ismaël sides over the past, and we saw that it was just so relentless in the pressing. It was so high up the pitch. There was no rest, and I can see what you mean when changing the whole front three. Sometimes I think it occasionally will need that. Obviously, 5 substitutes last year, so it's perhaps not as easy this season to change the whole front three, as that's all your substitutions gone. But I think Albion fans are a little shocked. I think myself included. We're quite shocked to see our team playing a game that strikes a bit of fear into the opposition. I think we're kind of a team that fears other teams. Like I think last couple of seasons we played Warnock's Middlesbrough, and we got knocked around the park like mad against that side. So it's nice to be a team that people are a bit frightened of. Really, it's a bit of an odd feeling, because normally we're the team that goes to these other sides and we think, oh God, these are gonna rough us up a bit. But it's nice to be the team that provides a bit of physicality. I mean, we are sacrificing that a little bit for the style of play. Obviously, we saw the long throws, the corners the other day, Sheffield United really working. But it's quite nice to be the side that's a bit more physical and a bit more intense on the opponent.
I think you definitely need that physicality. And Rovers at times last season, we had brilliant possession of the football, you know, probably the likes that we've not seen for a long time at Rovers, but maybe you could argue that we lack some of that physicality. Actually, we've started the season really well this season because of that grit, because of that determination. So, you know, we can absolutely relate to that as Rovers fans as well, Louis. So if we get onto the match itself, then, you know, West Brom and Rovers have both started the season unbeaten and go into the game level on 7 points, albeit obviously West Brom have got the better goal difference. And you're looking particularly impressive, particularly with that 4-0 victory over Sheffield United, who obviously came down with you as well in midweek, whereas Rovers have shown more the grit and determination, particularly in the last 2 away games that we've had. But a really interesting stat that I found is that in the 3 games that you've had in the league, you've had less possession in all 3 of those games. And in a 4-0 win the other night, it was just 35%. Yeah. So at Ewood Park tomorrow, are you expecting more of the same from West Brom, where you're just going to look to allow Rovers to have the ball, and then we see that press, we see that counter, and we see you show off that attacking threat that you clearly have?
Yeah, I think that our possession that we do have, our spells of possession, they don't last for very long, to be honest. It kind of just, it's get the ball up the pitch as quick as possible. It's not long ball, but it's really assertive and quite to the point play. It's not like, oh, we'll just have a mess around the back for 5 minutes and then start to build up. It's right, let's get it from the centre backs to the wing backs over to the front line, and then let's get runners beyond. It's a bit more like that. I think I can understand where you come from with the possession stats. Definitely that the other teams have had far more possession than us. Definitely with Sheffield United in that case, they didn't perhaps make the chances, didn't perhaps get the chance to get the ball up the pitch as quickly as we did, but they did have a lot of the ball. I think we're likely to let Rovers have a bit more of the possession. I think that's to be expected as to what we've seen over the past 3 games. But I think definitely when you guys have the ball, I don't know if you guys are particularly renowned for playing out from the back, but if you do try and play out from the back, I could expect a pretty high press come in when you guys try and play out from there.
I think we're comfortable at playing out from the back. As I say, we did do that last season, and I think we've got the players to do it. I don't think we've necessarily seen that style so far this season. And certainly in the first home game against Swansea, we let them have possession of the ball. They are definitely a side that likes to play out from the back. But no, just really intriguing stats on West Brom. And I think really interesting that obviously Ishmael is clearly imprinting that kind of Barnsley blueprint on West Brom. But if we do look at the West Brom squad, Louis, you did reference this earlier. It's not as big as you might think with a team just relegated from the Premier League. But of course, you've got some great attacking options in the likes of Callum Robinson, Karlan Grant, Grady Diangana. So who started the season in form for the Baggies?
It's got to be. I think that front 3 is actually. I've looked at it, and I've in terms of apart from goal contributions, it hasn't really worked as well as I thought it was going to work. I know perhaps Albion fans will go, oh, but they've scored. Callum Robinson scored the goals, but then I think about somebody like Diangana, who hasn't quite had the effect I thought he was going to have, because we played this front 3, and you normally think of a front 3 and you think they're going to be quite wide, but they've been really narrow, and I don't think that particularly helps somebody like Diangana, who wants to get wide, he wants to isolate his fullback, he wants to have a run at them. So he's picking up the ball in the middle of the pitch and he's cutting in field and he's running into a load of traffic, and it's not really helped him. But Robinson's definitely been the man in form in our front line. Obviously 3 goals in 3 games. I think he's the current top scorer. Not that means anything at this stage, but he's the top scorer in the Championship at the moment. Be it those 3 have come from set pieces where the opposition defenders have just gravitated towards our bigger players coming up from the back. People like O'Shea and Matt Clark and Carl Bartley, they've gravitated towards them, and they've just left Callum Robinson on his own at the back post. So if I were to give one piece of advice, it would if I was a Blackburn fan to Tony Mowbray, it was just watch out for Callum Robinson at the back post, because that's where all 3 of his goals have come from. They've just looped over and he's just been there to tap home. So yeah, that would be my advice to him if you are to try and stop Callum Robinson. That's where his goals have come from. But the front 3 has been okay, but not quite as effective in terms of on the ball as I'd expect. But the pressing from the front 3, it starts with them, and they've done that really well so far.
And Callum Robinson does have a history against Rovers, so he's a former Preston man, Louis, and he did score against Rovers a couple of seasons ago and celebrated, shushing us in that away end. So Callum Robinson is not going to be a player we want scoring against us tomorrow, that's for sure. Now, Rovers fans, as you know, we always ask the opposition fan to give their predicted 11 for the game tomorrow, and Louis has obliged, as everyone else does. And this is the predicted side from Louis for tomorrow. in either that 3-4-3/5-2-3 formation that obviously Ishmael did deploy at Barnsley last season and what West Brom have been doing this season. So, Louis, did you just want to talk us through the side, talk us through who the key people, what we're going to expect in those different positions?
Yeah, so we've gone for I've predicted an unchanged lineup, as I think Ismail has found at the moment, currently without any additions, his best lineup. I think in goal we got Sam Johnston, who I think was a player I expected to leave at the start of the season, but he's been really committed to his football, unlike perhaps another player who we shan't speak of, who has forced their way out of the club and gone to Saudi Arabia. So Johnston's really proved himself to be a very good professional. He's come back from England duty early, and he's wanted to get down to business in our side. So I'm really pleased that he's staying. The back three, I think, also is one that has started to be moulded. I wouldn't have said this would be a back three at the start of the season. Obviously, you got Ajayi and you got Cedric Kipre on the bench. Matt Clark looked unbelievable against Sheffield United, especially in the opposition penalty box when it comes to corners and long throws. He's looked really good. And O'Shea, I've been really impressed with as well. Got the two wing backs in Furlong and Townsend. Furlong's long throws are causing absolute havoc among the opposition defenders, especially for Sheffield United the other day. So the wing backs are going to do a pretty good job of milling up and down, supporting that press from the front three. Then Alex Mowat has been a revelation in midfield. I don't think we've quite had a player like him for a few years who's tough in the tackle and wants to get the ball forwards as quickly as possible. Very good left foot as well. Livermore's a player that alongside him has been revitalised under Valérien Ismaël with the high press. He's a very physical player, a very hard-working one, and I think he suits it quite well, as much as most West Brom fans didn't think he would. And then obviously we talked about the front three, who haven't, in particular Diangana hasn't particularly set the championship alight, but Callum Robinson's in there. He's picking up the goals, so I certainly wouldn't be willing to complain if he's picking up the goals. But the front three, their pressing starts with them. So once they've started pressing, they really set the tempo for the rest of the team to push up. So they are as important as ever. But I think Matt Clark's the man who surprised me the most. I think he's been a real asset at the back on loan from Brighton. So yeah, that's the lineup I think that Valérien Ismaël's going to go for tomorrow. And hopefully it's one that can carry over some similar form from the Sheffield game. Although I do believe that they may be a little tired after such a high intensity game.
Yeah, I mean, with 35% possession, that's a lot of work rate that you're putting in off the ball, isn't it? Even if it is a 4-0 victory. So absolutely. And it looks a good side on paper, most certainly. And I do just wonder if Mowbray will try and match you up and go wing backs. We have seen it for Rovers this season. I just wonder if we'll try and shut down your two wing backs, particularly if they are a good attacking threat for you. And as Steve puts here, Mowat versus Travis will be tasty, as will Livermore against Travis as well. I think Travis will be up for that fight. I think, Louis. So
I think I remember Travis having a bit of a set to with Livermore at our place a few years ago. I think I remember Travis was and they were just kicking each other up in the air all game. Basically, I just remember that under Bilic a couple of years ago. So yeah, nice reunited there between the two of them would be nice, and definitely Mowat in there as well.
Yeah, Trav loves that definitely. And if I just bring the side up again, Louis, if there are any areas of weakness, where can Rovers potentially hurt you tomorrow?
I think it's probably the high line, I think, is one thing. There's not a lot of pace in that back line, but obviously Sheffield didn't go with pace at the start of the game. So by the time they brought their pace on, they were 3-0 down. I think it would take a brave team to try and set about that high back line. It would take perhaps two quick strikers to sit and peel off onto the edge of those wing backs, so in behind those wing backs on the edge of the back three. So I think if you try and play your wingers or your faster players higher up the pitch, then perhaps that could be somewhere you could exploit. If you get the ball over the top quickly, Matt Clark is particularly slow, so is Bartley, and so is O'Shea. So I don't think we've got much of a prayer in terms of pace at the back. So if you try and play your wingers or your faster players higher up the pitch and play them on the halfway line almost, then perhaps that might be a way to get about us.
Definitely. Now, I know you said you didn't want to talk about this man, but he's in my preloaded questions, I'm afraid. Strange footballing move from Matthias Pereira, who's gone and joined Al Hilal for an undisclosed fee. For those people that didn't know, obviously, top scorer for the Baggies last time at this level, chipped in with, many assists and a really important player for you. So as much as obviously it's a transfer that hurts, how much of a miss is he going to be for you this season, do you think?
I think he's definitely, his quality is irreplaceable. We bought him for, I think we had him on loan initially, but then we bought him for about £8 million. I don't think you can find a player with that sort of quality for £8 million, especially in this division. So I think it's more his quality that we'll miss. I can't see where he would have fit in this system, to be honest. I can't really pick a place where he might have been quite useful. So I guess maybe in that respect, he wouldn't be missed so much with this new system, but it certainly was an odd footballing decision. I mean, I don't mind, well, I suppose I do mind when players force a move, but it's just football nowadays. But I think to force your move to Al Hilal and essentially you could have gone to the Premier League, I think was the bit that upset me the most, because we've seen his ability, we've seen his potential. He can play, he can play in a top 10 Premier League side quite comfortably, but obviously it wasn't to be. But I can't see where he would have fit in amongst this system. But yeah, it's a strange decision from him, and I think he's one that will be missed in terms of his quality at the Hawthorns.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if Rovers were in that position as well, I'd be absolutely angry that arguably our best player's gone and done a move like that. I'm sure the money is brilliant, hats off to him for earning all of that, but that's a strange move. But I think you're right about obviously the system and things. Ismail strikes me as a manager that you don't mess with, and I just wonder if he's come in pre-season and gone, this is the way that I'm going to play. This is what I want you to be doing in my side, Pereira. And maybe he's thrown his toys out the pram a little bit and gone, right, I want to get out. And actually, when the list of clubs who want Pereira and are willing to pay for Pereira actually are listed on paper, maybe it's only Al Hilal who are the only ones who are willing to part with the cash and do it. So,
yeah,
fair play to Ismail in that sense. He's got a system. It works. Obviously gutting for you to lose a player. But with that in mind then, Louis, are West Brom expecting to make any more signings, any more rumours? What are you expecting, business-wise, particularly as your squad does look smaller, particularly compared to Fulham's?
Yeah, it's gone a bit quiet, to be honest, in terms of incomings. Obviously, Romain Sawyers has left us on a season-long loan to go to Stoke today, which leaves us with two senior centre midfielders, and those two are the ones that are starting most games, Mowat and Livermore. We've got young Kevin Castro on the bench who could fill in at centre midfield, so there's got to be an incoming coming if Romain Sawyer's gone off on loan. Okay, Yakushlu is a man that's been linked with us all the way through the summer. Obviously, we had him on loan last season and he was incredible for us. He's available reportedly about £4 million, and I wouldn't see why we would pass up that opportunity if he wanted to come to us. Strikers is one where I think we're still looking. I guess that Robinson's been putting in the goals, but there isn't perhaps a differential among the striking options for opposition defenders to deal with. Obviously, they've got quite small attacking players to deal with in our front three. Maybe there's scope for a bigger, bulkier centre forward, maybe like Daryl DK, who's been looked at by Albion. Reportedly, we're in talks with him, but it's gone quite quiet on the incoming front, and I hope that it doesn't stay that way. But it'll probably be a usual deadline day job from Albion in terms of what they've done over the past couple of years. It'll definitely be a deadline day job. We'll probably have about 3 new players on deadline day, but who that is remains to be seen. Obviously, those are the 2 that I would personally bring in, and they're ones that have been linked and talked about. But in terms of actual concrete reports, there's not really a lot going around.
It does seem to have gone a little bit quiet for a lot of clubs, doesn't it? And DK is one that doesn't surprise me. He's clearly a player that Ismail trusts, and I don't know if you saw much of him last season, Louis, but he was brilliant for Barnsley, so I'm sure he would fit into your system.
Yeah, he was a tank last season for Barnsley. I saw, obviously, did a little video a few weeks ago on who we should sign at striker, and I watched like this 10-minute video on the sort of, it was literally just like every touch he'd had at Barnsley just put into one video, and he was just such a powerhouse. It reminded me of when we took Lukaku in as quite a young player, and that he's sort of quite low to the ground, quite really bulky and bouncing defenders off him, and there were balls being crossed into the box and he would just be the first to it every time. So yeah, I wouldn't be against signing him, definitely. I think a loan to buy is probably our way of looking at things now. We've got a bit more money with Pereira, but yeah, we'll see about that one. But I'd definitely like him to join us if he'd be up for it.
Yeah, well, he's proven at this level, so good signing in that sense. So Rovers fans, we've reached a part of the show where I'm going to put Louis and myself on the spot with our score predictions. So please load in the comments with your own. But just before I come to Louis, just going to pick up Steve's comment here. Predicted bad weather for the game. Will that affect either team's game? I don't think so, Steve. Obviously, we've shown that West Brom will clearly, happy to play football, without the ball in that sense. They'll get it forward, they'll get it airborne. Mowbray's come out in the press today and said it's probably going to be a really ugly game, as Rovers are going to do the same. So I'm hoping that the weather doesn't affect it in terms of, the football that we both want to play. But that said, it's obviously bad weather, so I'm not promising that it's going to be 3-3 or 4-3. It might well still be 0-0 or 1-0, Steve. So, but in terms of how we both want to play, I'm hoping that shouldn't affect us in that regard. Right, so Mark is in with the first comment, so I know that people are going to get their score predictions in. Louis, I'm going to come to you first, though. How do you think the game's going to go? What's your prediction for tomorrow?
Yeah, well, I think bad weather that Steve's talked about there, I think probably is in our favour a little bit, or maybe yours if you want to, if you're planning on doing a bit of a press yourself. I think that's something that you'd want. Bad weather, you'd want the ball swizzing about at the back, you want it sliding, you want defenders making mistakes, and you want your strikers in on goal as a result of it. So I think Albion may edge this. I think it's going to be. I think Albion fans, I know we beat quite comfortably a very good side in Sheffield United the other day, but I think this is going to be a really tough challenge for us. You guys are obviously going to bring a lot of physicality in the midfield, going to try and match us in every aspect of the physicality of the game. I'm going to go for 2-1 Albion, but I think you guys will score first, and I think we'll have a bit of a wake up call in terms of getting back into the game. So I'll go for 2-1 Albion.
Yeah, I'm quite torn on this one because my head is saying that. I think you've just got, if I look at that starting 11, it's obviously a really good starting 11, and I know how Ismail plays. And, I think that on Wednesday, both sides, Forest and Rovers, there were only 4 or 5 chances in the game, and we came up against a Nottingham Forest side that were clearly down on, the deck and struggling a little bit. And I just wonder if this game will be one step too far for Rovers. So I think I can see this being our first defeat of the season, and I don't like predicting us to lose, but I do think it will just catch up, and I can't get bloody Callum Robinson's face out of my mind, annoyingly, because that Preston celebration is etched into my brain. So yeah, I think maybe 2-1 West Brom. I think you're right. I think Rovers will put up a good fight. I think we'll see everything that we've seen from Rovers so far this season, with the grit, the determination, etc., etc. But I think the quality will show, and I think I can see West Brom getting the job done. So yeah, I'm going to say 2-1 West Brom as well, Louis. So Rovers fans, please get your predictions in. We'll be closing the stream fairly shortly. I'm going to go right to the top, though, because I think Kevin, might be at the darts. So if you're there, Kevin, hello. If you're at the darts, thank you for getting in your comment before we went live. Kevin's on a similar mind track to me. I think they'll be a little stronger than us, so he's going to go for a 3-1 West Brom. But he's hopeful of a 1-1 draw. He followed that one up. What else have we got here? Abby just came in. It's going to be an open game as we're pressing high as well nowadays. What else have we got? Mark, you were first in when we did the roll call. Mark's also gone 2-1 West Brom. Steve, he's been predicting Rovers loss all season, and they've been doing so well. West Brom to win 3-0. I like it. Abby, head is saying 1-1, but with a fight I saw from the team, it's going to be 1-0, and we hold on for a win. Abby, love that. Absolutely love that, Abby. Brilliant. If no one else comes in with a comment, that is the one to bloody end the stream on. So love that, Abby. But I think it'll be a tough game. We all know that. We definitely do know that. So yeah, Rovers fans, you have got probably about 1 minute to get your score prediction in before we finish the stream. But Louis, I just want to thank you for the excellent insight that you've given on West Brom, and thank you for giving up your Friday evening and joining us. I've really enjoyed that chat, and obviously getting an insight into Ismail's West Brom. Don't want to call you Barnsley plus, but it seems like he's taking all the good things he did with Barnsley and really putting it into this set of players.
Yeah, it definitely looked a bit like that. We even nicked a few of their coaching staff as well, so I think that's definitely the case with us. But yeah, absolutely massive thank you for having me on the show tonight. It's been great to chat, and hopefully we're going to see a good game tomorrow.
Yeah, I hope so too. Are you at the game tomorrow? I forgot to ask that earlier.
No, I think a dodgy stream will have to do me tomorrow. Are you going up, Ryan? Are you going up?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there at the game. And,
hopefully you'll see a good one then tomorrow. Hopefully not in too bad weather for the spectators and for that in that respect.
Yeah, I need to check the forecast. I don't live in Blackburn, so weather here is too bad at the moment. So I'll have to just check what's going on in the northwest, which obviously does have more rain than where I live. But yeah, I'll be at the game and hopefully it's a good one. We've got one more. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Zaktar45 says 3-1 Rovers. Diaz hat-trick. Now, we haven't spoken about Diaz, have we? But that would be insane, Zaktar, if that happened. So there we go. I think we will end it there. Rovers fans, just a couple of reminders for you. We are back with Sofa Chat tomorrow, live in person, me, Luke and Joe, from 1 p.m. on the Rovers Chat channel. Come and join us. It's a bit of light-hearted fun before the game. So a bit of match preview, a bit of nonsense, a bit of fun. And then we'll just do that live team news reaction before we all obviously set off and go our ways to Ewood Park. As I say, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please hit that subscribe button. Please turn on all notifications using that bell icon. And please give this video a like and all of our other videos a like. We've got Sofa Chat tomorrow. Ollie will be doing the watch along and we'll have the instant reaction as well. So we've got you all covered tomorrow with the pre and post-match content. Steve, thanks ever so much. Thanks, gents. Great content. Enjoy your weekend. Absolutely, Louis. You've helped provide the content tonight. So that thanks goes to you as well. I will leave everyone with what have we got? The lives. We've got 6 yards out as our outro tonight. So have a good rest of the evening, everyone. See you later, Louis. And yeah, enjoy the game, everyone. See you later. The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.